Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep today into a conversation with Sam Altman about, well, the future of AI's physical form, this massive infrastructure project known as Stargate that OpenAI is envisioning.
Mm,
Our guide for this deep dive is that Bloomberg Originals interview you shared with us, and we're going to try and extract the core insights from it. What's the true scale of this ambition? Why this desperate need for just unprecedented compute? And what's the vision that actually drives building something this colossal?
that's right. And the interview, it paints a picture that goes way beyond just software, you know? It's about concrete, power, supply chains, a level of physical build out that's honestly hard to even grasp.
Yeah.
So our mission here is to pull out those critical pieces,
Hmm.
understanding the origin story, its sheer scale, who the key players are, the huge technical and economic hurdles, the risks Altman sees, his take on the broader societal impact, and even some really telling personal reflections he shared.
And it all seems to start with a pretty fundamental shift in like how they understood the problem, according to the interview. Initially, the focus was heavily on the compute needed just to train these enormous AI models, which, makes perfect sense.
Right, that's what everyone was focused on.
But then came GPT-4 and ChatGPT hitting the real world.
Exactly. And what surprised them wasn't just the training scale, but the explosion in user demand. That's what's called inference compute, actually using the models after they're built.
Okay.
Altman describes this moment of realization as going from needing a lot of compute to suddenly thinking, and I'm quoting him here, oh man, this is like gone from a lot of compute to like the biggest infrastructure project in history.
Wow.
That unexpected, just overwhelming demand is the real genesis point for Stargate. It forced them to look really intensely at where the supply chain limits were globally.
So this wasn't some abstract strategic plan hatched in a boardroom from day one. It was more of a reaction to, like, viral real-world usage.
Pretty much, yeah. A reaction to success, in a way. And that realization sent Altman on these global travels in 2023. While he was meeting with developers and governments, which was part of it,
Sure.
a huge part of those trips, he says, became intensely focused on understanding that physical supply chain needed to scale compute. He even highlights that this was a completely new area of focus for him personally.
Huh. Like a crash course in silicon manufacturing and power grids, basically.
You got it. And who emerged as key partners in this massive new undertaking, according to the interview?
Right. Who's helping build this thing?
Well, SoftBank came in on the financial side, bring the scale of capital required, and Oracle as a technical partner.
Oracle. Interesting. So likely involved in the physical infrastructure, the data
Uh-huh.
centers themselves.
Seems likely, yeah, the operational side of these enormous facilities.
Now, you might wonder, and the source brings this up, couldn't existing partners like Microsoft just cover this? I mean, they're already doing gigantic amounts of compute for OpenAI,
Yeah.
right?
Right, that's the natural question. And Altman clarifies that their relationship with Microsoft is great, and Microsoft provides, well, immense resources. But he's clear that the scale they are now contemplating with Stargate is simply more than any one company can deliver.
Ah.
Even Microsoft's capabilities, vast as they are, apparently aren't sufficient for what they see as the next step in that evolution. This project is just operating at a completely different order of magnitude.
Speaking of that magnitude, they call this thing Stargate. You'd hope for a really cool futuristic reason, right? Like jumping through a wormhole to the future of AI.
Huh. You would think so.
But the interview gives us a slightly more mundane and frankly kind of funnier origin for the code name.
Yeah, it wasn't some deep metaphor initially. Apparently, the code name just stuck because the visual layout of one of the very early data center designs they sketched out, well, it actually resembled the Stargate device from the sci-fi show.
No way. So less futuristic portal, more accidental blueprint resemblance.
Exactly. It takes it down to earth a bit, doesn't it?
It really does. And this project is so foundational, it even got announced at the White House. Altman noted President Trump's reported interest in infrastructure, specifically focusing on that crucial step of permitting for energy and data center facilities. That really underscores that this AI future is physically built, not just coded in the cloud somewhere.
Absolutely. All the fancy models, they rely on concrete, steel, power lines, fiber optic cables, the works. Altman describes the current phase of AI development as a step change. And he says the main design challenge for these future data centers isn't just getting the training done anymore. It's handling the overwhelming inference demand from users, like you and me using ChatGPT.
And you get the distinct feeling from the interview that even with their current already massive setup, they're constantly playing catch-up. He uses phrases like crazily constrained,
Yeah, despite having a gigantic, gigantic compute fleet.
which has real-world consequences, right? It's
Right.
not just an internal problem.
Oh, totally. He states it explicitly, basically saying, if we had twice as much compute, we would be able to offer much better products and services. There's no shortage of demand. This isn't some hypothetical bottleneck. It directly limits what they can actually launch.
So when features are slow to roll out or limited.
Exactly. He mentions having to borrow compute from their own research teams, slow down features, make painful trade-offs, all because they just don't have limitless GPUs available. The shortage is real.
It really puts a fine point on it. The constraint isn't just about, like, convenience. It genuinely limits the pace of putting new AI tools into people's hands. He boils it down to a simple equation. More compute means we can give you more AI. It's that fundamental.
Which brings us, naturally, to the economic question that grabbed all the headlines. That potential $500 billion figure. What exactly is that number meant to cover?
Right? $500 billion. It sounds astronomical.
It is. But Altman clarifies that the $500 billion is the estimated cost for the capacity they believe they'll need for the next few years, given our growth projections. So it's essentially the infrastructure bill for that projected user growth.
Okay, so it's tied to projections. And does he sound confident they can get a return on that kind of an enormous investment?
He expresses confidence, yeah. Says he feels they can make $500 billion in value back. Given the tens of billions OpenAI has already raised, the financial sustainability is obviously a huge question mark for many.
Sure.
His perspective from the interview seems to be that it's looking like we're doing really well, and while acknowledging, that things could definitely go wrong, he feels confident in the bet. It's a staggering sum, but they clearly see the user demand justifying the potential expenditure.
Now, there's also talk about efficiency. He mentions the DeepSeek example, where another team claimed a more efficient approach. Does that kind of thing challenge the need for such massive scale? Maybe they could just get smarter, not bigger.
That's a fair point. He respects the DeepSeek team, calls them talented, but he doesn't sound convinced they've found something fundamentally way more efficient than OpenAI has already explored or is working on.
Okay.
However, he absolutely believes future efficiency gains will happen. He says, sure, yeah, I'm sure. He expects those gains to come from all of the above: better chips, smarter energy use, improved algorithms, overall optimization across the entire stack.
But this is where that classic Jevons paradox comes into play, isn't it? The idea that as something gets more efficient or cheaper to use, we actually end up using more of it, sometimes dramatically more.
Exactly. And for Altman, this never seemed like a paradox at all. He kind of sees it as just the way the world works most of the time, driven by basic supply and demand elasticity.
Right.
His example is key here. Even if they achieve, say, a tenfold price reduction through efficiency gains, people might find ways to use the AI 20 times more often because it's cheaper and better.
So in that scenario,
In that scenario, you still need twice the total compute capacity you started with, not less. The surge in demand actually outpaces the efficiency gain.
that insight really clarifies why, even though they believe in future efficiency, they're so intensely focused on building just monumental scale now.
It makes sense. Okay, looking at the competitive landscape, he acknowledges players like Elon Musk's XAI and Grok. What's his take there?
Pretty measured, actually. He mentions he hasn't used Grok much himself, but assumes it's probably a very good model. His broader point seems to be that good models will become very plentiful across the industry.
So just having a good model won't be enough to stand out.
That seems to be the implication. It suggests that simply having a competent AI won't be the unique differentiator for companies going forward. There will be lots of them.
So what does he see as OpenAI's primary edge in that increasingly crowded space then, if it's not just the model itself? He points to their combination of, quote, the best infrastructure layer and the best top of the stack. So that's the physical foundation, the Stargates, plus the user-facing products like ChatGPT and the APIs developers use.
Infrastructure and the application layer.
Right. And critically, he highlights their massive user base. He says way more people use ChatGPT than any other AI service. Way more. He views that user base not just as customers, but as a huge advantage, a growing source of data and feedback that helps them iterate and stay ahead.
Okay, stepping back a bit from the tech and the money. What's the grand vision behind building all of this? What's the ultimate goal here?
The core vision he articulates is actually quite simple, almost humble in a way. Give people tools to let them do whatever they're going to do better.
Like a tool maker.
Exactly. He frames AI not as some completely alien concept, but as another powerful tool in the long history of human technological progress, something that will unleash creativity and enable people to build entirely new things we can't even imagine yet.
And is there a particular area of potential AI impact that he's personally most excited about seeing realized soon?
Scientific discovery is the one he calls out specifically. He believes we're not far away from AI dramatically accelerating breakthroughs in science.
Any timeline on that?
He gives a sort of potential perspective, maybe agents doing known tasks really well in 2025, and then 2026 potentially being a big year of new scientific progress driven by AI.
Wow. And these Stargate projects, is it just going to be one massive site, or?
No, he confirms plans for similar buildouts on other continents, though he hedges a bit on saying everywhere. But the ambition is clearly global, requiring complex, multi-site execution.
Of course, with a bet this enormous, there have to be significant risks. He talks about the financial risk. I mean, what if user demand plateaus? Or people just start paying for AI services? That's a huge unknown hanging over a potential $500 billion investment.
Absolutely, that's a massive commercial risk. And then there's the supply chain risk, which is enormous and tied directly to the dependence on really just a single dominant chip maker like NVIDIA right now.
Right.
He acknowledges NVIDIA's powerful position, says they make an incredible product, but it's clearly a vulnerability for the entire industry that's so reliant on their hardware.
And another really significant risk, one that gets discussed constantly, is the impact on jobs.
Yeah.
It's a huge point of public anxiety and debate.
Yeah, and Altman is very direct about it in the interview. He says AI is for sure going to change a lot of jobs, totally take some jobs away, create a bunch of new ones.
Does he try to downplay it?
Not really. He places it within the historical context of technology always changing jobs, which is true, but he stresses the critical difference this time. The rate of change looks like it could be much, much faster than previous technological shifts.
And he calls out one specific potential moment he thinks the world isn't truly ready for yet. Something beyond just software impacts.
That's right. He calls it the humanoid robots moment. He believes it's not very far away, and that actually seeing physical robots performing roles currently done by humans will have a uniquely visceral impact on how people feel about job disruption.
That does sound different.
Yeah. He says OpenAI tries to be super honest about these potential effects, even while acknowledging they might be wrong on the exact specifics or timing.
Shifting to some of the more personal reflections he shared, the velocity of innovation must feel incredible from the outside. Seeing these massive structures practically rising from the red dirt so quickly.
Yeah.
But how does he describe experiencing that pace day to day? Does it feel like warp speed to him?
It's interesting. He uses a great analogy. It's like watching your own kid grow day to day. You just see every change, and so it's like not as striking.
Ah, the boiling frog, kind of.
Sort of. So while the progress is objectively unimaginable compared to just 3 years ago, the daily immersion makes it feel less like a sudden leap and more like this continuous incremental change. He also made a point of mentioning he was impressed by President Trump's ability to quickly grasp the key issues in this rapidly evolving industry and, make decisions.
Interesting. And speaking of kids, he recently had a baby, which he touches on briefly.
Yeah, he calls it the best, most amazing thing ever and says it caused an immediate neurochemical change that totally rewired all of my priorities.
Wow.
He notes that many people apparently told him they were glad he had a child, believing it would somehow lead him to make better decisions for humanity.
That's a heavy expectation.
Right. He says he always wanted to get it right, the whole AGI safety thing, but admits that having a child does feel like it's different, even though he adds he can't articulate how. It's just a fascinating little glimpse into how profound personal life changes might influence the perspectives of people building potentially world-changing technology.
Definitely. Okay, finally, bring it all back to that idea of Stargate as a portal, a gateway to the future. When you look through that metaphorical wormhole Altman is building, what does he actually say he sees on the other side? What's the unpredictable future look like from his perspective?
His answer is actually strikingly humble, almost agnostic. He basically says, I have no idea, and repeats, no one knows.
Really? After building all this?
Yeah. He draws parallels to, not being able to predict major physics discoveries back in 1905 or the development of the atomic bomb decades later. He seems to genuinely believe that trying to predict the specific long-term impacts of powerful AI is simply beyond anyone's current capability. Too many unknowns.
But despite that acknowledged unpredictability, What's his overall assessment of the direction we're heading? Is it just a straight line up? Is it all positive?
He's more nuanced than that. He firmly believes AI will help dramatically accelerate the pace of science and human discovery. That seems core to his optimism. But his net assessment of the future isn't just universally positive. He says it will be up and down, and not better in every way.
Okay, so some downsides acknowledged.
Definitely. But when pressed on the overall trajectory, whether it's generally trending up and to the right, he
Yeah.
ultimately agrees. Yeah, up and to the right, with some choppiness.
With some choppiness. I like that.
Ugh.
So we've really explored the immense scale and complexity of literally building the foundation for the next era of AI. Everything from navigating global supply chains and forging these massive partnerships to handling the tidal wave of user demand and the, frankly, eye-watering economics involved.
Yeah, and we've touched on the ambitious vision of AI as this tool to empower human creativity and accelerate scientific discovery, while also squarely acknowledging the significant job changes on the horizon, including that humanoid robots moment he believes is coming sooner rather than later.
It's clear this isn't just about software updates anymore. It's about a fundamental physical build-out on a scale perhaps never seen before, creating the substrate for a technology with just unprecedented potential, but also, as he admits, acknowledged risks and inherent uncertainties.
That choppiness seems guaranteed.
Exactly. So here's the final thought for you to mull over. Given the sheer unprecedented scale of the infrastructure they are building, the acknowledged unpredictability of AI's impact, and Altman's own final assessment that the future is heading up and to the right with some choppiness, what specific unexpected source of that choppiness do you think could emerge that all this planning for scale and efficiency still might not account for? What potential disruption is still truly lurking beyond that metaphorical Stargate?